Maduro has destabilized and attempted to continue destabilizing the entire region. Nicolás Maduro has sent cartels that were coming in through the open border under the Biden administration. Attorney General has announced that there are charges being put forth against Maduro, and certainly there will be a trial, and he will be held responsible for his narco activities and terrorist activities. I think we could expect nothing less from Putin supporting his few allies that he has in Latin America, Maduro being the biggest one.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. This Saturday hasn't been the normal one, at least in Venezuela. You have heard it, and you have heard it correct. The Navy SEALs, the Delta Force of the US has landed in Venezuela and taken President Maduro and his wife into captivity. To discuss the matters further, because this is just the beginning of the tip of the iceberg, we are joined by Vlada Galan, partner, Oracle Advisory Group, a name and a face that you see on One India very regularly. Vlada is a geopolitical expert as well. Vlada, thank you so much for speaking to us on such short notice. I mean, very quickly, let's get into it. What happens from here? A trial in United States?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great to be back with you. Absolutely. The Trump administration has proven that they take very seriously what has been happening in Latin America, but not only in Latin America, but the triple and ripple effects that it has had going through United States borders. Let's not forget that Nicolás Maduro has sent cartels that were coming in through the open border under the Biden administration, flooding in drugs into the United States, taking over apartment complexes and terrorizing residents. These are things that are not tolerated by the current Trump administration. And Pam Bondi has announced, the Attorney General has announced that there are charges being put forth against Maduro, and certainly there will be a trial, and he will be held responsible for his narco activities and terrorist activities. It's no surprise. We know that the Soul cartel is incredibly active and has been supporting Maduro in Venezuela, and even in neighboring countries, supporting candidates and presidential hopefuls in countries like Colombia, just right next door. What happens is Maduro has destabilized and attempted to continue destabilizing the entire region. So certainly you're going to see a trial. Certainly you're going to see, and you've already seen, the Trump administration. He doesn't just speak tough rhetoric, he follows through. And we saw that at the early hours of the morning Eastern Standard Time today.
You are also actively working there as your neighboring country goes to polls. We'll come to that. But before that, very quickly, I would like to read the excerpt from Kremlin. It says the United States committed an act of armed aggression against Venezuela, which is concerning. The pretext used to justify these actions are untenable. Do you think that this particular action, in the garb of ridding the world of the sins and of the evils of drug and its addiction, do you think the world is looking at it differently?
Well, I think we could expect nothing less from Putin supporting his few allies that he has in Latin America, Maduro being the biggest one.
Yes.
What to also consider is Venezuela is just one piece of the puzzle if you're looking at global narco trade and global drug trade. You have other countries where you've seen spikes in that, like Colombia, as I've mentioned previously, and other countries in Latin America. And that also heavily depends on leadership. It's no surprise that in Colombia you had and you have President Gustavo Petro, who's also a very
Mhm.
far left, radical socialist bordering on communist, who was very close to Maduro. And we have to question how even he got into power. Taking out these methodical movements, taking out regimes like this certainly helps to, impact in a positive way, ridding the drug trade. But it's something that, is inevitably going to continue in one form or another. together. But I don't think that's why the Trump administration did it, even if that's the reasoning that they used. We have to see the broader strategy here. And the broader strategy here, if we look at the bird's eye view in the bigger picture, is that you notice that when the president of Syria came to the White House, Trump was very friendly. Why? Because he doesn't want him getting close to Russia. You see Trump actively targeting allies of Russia. You see the instability happening in Iran right now. Trump taking out Maduro is lessening Russia's sphere of influence, and its allies and closing in its lifeline. And I think, that's really valuable as you're looking at the negotiations going on regarding Ukraine, as you're looking at what is going on globally. So I think Trump has this really fascinating strategy that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but it's hard to miss that he's actively targeting allies of Putin, wherever they may stand, and certainly interesting to see what happens in Iran in the next couple weeks.
Indeed, I mean, you have actually mentioned, three, four key names that are interconnected also. Iran, yes, Russia, Venezuela, Colombia to a certain extent, definitely. And then there is China. Vlada, it was not hidden from the world that arms from China and Russia were landing in Venezuela as President Maduro was preparing to counter an inevitable attack, an inevitable war with the United States. Do you believe that President Trump going ahead with his plans, targeting Putin's allies, and also, for that matter, attacking ISIS in Nigeria. Do you think that somehow Donald Trump is doing the same mistake that he's trying to avoid in other parts of the world where the war is going on?
Well, what Trump has done is there's been quite a bit of intelligence that came out about Hamas and Hezbollah operatives hiding out in Venezuela and using illicit networks that Maduro knew a lot about. Venezuela was not amicable in any way to working with the Trump administration to eradicate all of those forms of terrorism financing. And we saw the result of what we got here. And so I think that Trump reached a point that there was nothing else to be done, and it was either act now or accept the set of circumstances as is. Do I think that Venezuela was going to launch, some kind of full-scale attack in the United States? No, but that's not how terrorism works, right? It's isolated incidences meant to cause, terror, which they've done repeatedly through cartels like Tren de Agua. And we saw that in Colorado in the United States. And that's, how they operate and hope to continue operating. And, I think had this been a different administration, they would not have been as active and as decisive
Mhm.
in such actions. We also can't disregard the economic perspective here. And that's,
Mhm.
speaking completely neutrally, Venezuela is a massive, a country that has severe oil assets, serious oil assets. And so we can't,
Mhm.
disregard that has to play some role in someone's mind at some point or another. And so you have a lot of, Venezuelan oil that, is sanctioned and has a lot of issues. And I'm certain that that's going to change now, hopefully under a new interim government, or I've heard considerations of a council style temporary government before potentially
Mhm.
a future election.
Right, Vlada, I was actually deliberately leaving oil out of it because you have rightly mentioned that this is something that every finger is pointing at. What happened in Iraq, what happens now is something that always points to oil, but these are all sugar-coated and juxtaposed with one thing or the other so that the world could actually try and justify it. In the neighborhood of United States, in Colombia, are we also looking at some sort of regime change or some sort of change through the democratic process there?
Well, I think we look at what's happening on the continent as a whole, and it's been actually amazing
Hmm.
to watch what's happening in Latin America. Latin America had a socialist leadership all across the continent, and that's slowly
Hmm.
changing. You see leadership changing in Chile. You saw leadership changing in Argentina. What an incredible case study Argentina has been to watch with Milei. And you're going to continue seeing that shift all the way up the continent, and Venezuela is no different. what's the future politically hold for leadership in Venezuela? You have a few ministers, cabinet ministers that are still left in from the Maduro government that are going to attempt to assume power right now in a desperate power
Mm,
grab. Hopefully, those forces will be stopped in one way or another. And I think that there is a hope that maybe an interim council of some sort can come in and rule in the
mhm,
interim period until there is an election. You also have an incredible freedom fighter, Maria Machado. She's truly unbelievable. And she's the one that, won the Nobel Peace Prize for, her fight. I mean, people don't realize that her fight was organic. She had no money. She wasn't funded. She
mhm.
actually ran that fight on nothing, on volunteers. And that tells you just the disdain that the people had for the Maduro regime. So I think that, if an election were to happen, even with an interim government in a few months, I think someone like her has a very good chance, to participate and to win again. So certainly I see her, stepping up if she can to play a vital role in the region. In
Right.
Colombia, for example, you have Gustavo Petro. His term is actually over, and there is elections this year. And you are seeing someone even scarier than him that wants to come to power, very far left socialist Cepeda, who is coming from his bloc. And certainly, I
Mhm.
know that the Colombian people, I feel, will likely reject that option. Their lives have not gotten better under the current government. And I think with the fall of Maduro and so many Colombians applauding that, they don't want that to be the path of their country. And so that's what I think.
Right.
That's what I think leadership looks like in the region in the very near future.
Right. Coming back, and one final question before I let you go, Vlada. You mentioned Latin America, very important, and the way, these days, the geopolitics is developing. America is more impacted through Latin America than its northern neighbor, say Canada, for that matter. In this case, as you mentioned, Attorney General Bondi is saying that Maduro has been charged with weapons and drugs smuggling. Uh, in New York, does US law allow this that you pick up someone and then try him here in the United States?
Well, there is obviously grounds and jurisdiction that Bondi has found to do this, and the United States has found to do this. And there is jurisdiction because there is offenses that happened on U.S. soil, and it's something that targeted the United States. So the United States has found this kind of clause to find grounds to take Maduro. Now, I can't speak legally. I'm not a legal expert, but I can speak legally on, did they have the right to pick him up in the manner that they picked him up? Did they have the right to enter in the manner that they had to enter? I can't speak legally on that. I can tell you when it comes to matters of U.S. national security, the United States goes pretty far when it needs to execute a mission for its national security purposes. And I know many are asking, where is the line? At the end of the day, Maduro poked the bear, which is the Trump administration, and he got a response. And I think this was a very interesting move because it's going to serve as a very strong deterrent for other nations that try to follow in the same manner. I also think it sends a very clear message to Vladimir Putin, which is very useful to the Trump administration right now as they continue to try to bring an end to the one war they have not been able to solve, and hopefully can get there.
Vlada Galan, thank you so much for speaking to One India. One thing is certain, make America great again is something that President Trump hasn't just spoken, he's walking the talk. And these steps, which at times he appears and shows the world that he's against also, but in defense of American interests, this is the world's most powerful country taking the chance and not leaving nothing to chance there in order to safeguard the country. Vlada Galan, thank you so much for speaking to One India once again.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.